Rain fell hard on the rice fields of Gyeonggi Province. Lightning split the sky, showing the outline of Ta's small farmhouse for brief moments. Inside, Ta looked out the window with worry in his eyes. At 55, his face showed years of working under the sun. His hands were rough from farm work. "The storm is getting worse," he said to his daughter. Suk nodded as she placed 2 steaming bowls of soup on the table. At 23, she had her mother's kind eyes and her father's strong will. "The rice fields will flood if it keeps up." A flash of light, brighter than lightning, caught their attention. It cut across the sky, followed by a boom that shook the house. "That was not thunder," Ta said, already pulling on his raincoat. Suk grabbed a flashlight. "I'm coming with you." They stepped into the raging storm. The wind pushed against them as they walked toward the rice field where the strange light had fallen. Their boots sank into mud with each step. There, Suk pointed her flashlight at something metal sticking out of the flooded field. Steam rose from the water around it. They waded through the knee-deep water. What they found was like nothing they had ever seen. A metal pod, about the size of a small car, had crashed into their field. It was smooth and gray with no markings. One side had cracked open from the impact. "Stay back," Ta warned, but Suk moved closer. "Father, look," she whispered. Inside the broken pod was a small creature. It looked like a reptile, with glossy black scales that reflected the flashlight beam. Its body was about the size of a human baby. 2 golden eyes opened and looked at them with clear intelligence. The creature made a sound, a weak, pained cry. "It's hurt," Suk said, reaching toward it. Ta grabbed her arm. "We don't know what it is. It could be dangerous." The creature tried to move but fell back with a pitiful noise. A dark liquid, perhaps blood, pooled beneath it. "It will die if we leave it here," Suk said firmly. "The storm is getting worse." Ta looked at the sky, then at his daughter's determined face. He sighed. "Your mother always said your kind heart would be trouble someday." With careful hands, Ta lifted the creature from the pod. It was surprisingly light. The golden eyes watched him, but the creature made no move to fight or escape. "We'll take it to the barn," Ta decided, "not the house." As they turned back toward the farm, neither noticed a small light on the pod blinking weakly before going dark. High above Earth, cloaked in technology that made it invisible to human sensors, a ship received the pod's landing signal. The ship's commander, tall and thin with gray skin, studied the data. "We have the crash location," he told his crew. "But the storm is interfering with our tracking systems." "The asset?" asked another crew member. "Alive, according to the pod's last transmission," the commander said. "Prepare a retrieval team, but we must wait for the storm to pass." "Yes, Commander Hack." Back at the farm, Ta and Suk made a bed of straw in a dry corner of the barn. Ta gently placed the creature down. "I'll get the first aid kit," Suk said. "This isn't a dog or a cat," Ta reminded her. "We don't know what it needs." Suk knelt beside the creature. The golden eyes followed her movements. "It's scared and hurt. That much is the same for all living things." The creature made a soft clicking sound. Then, to their shock, it reached out one small, clawed hand and touched Suk's finger. "See," Suk smiled. "It knows we're trying to help." Ta watched with concern. "We should call someone." "Who?" "The police, the army. They would take it away." Suk stroked the creature's head gently. "Let's help it first, then decide." The creature closed its eyes, seeming to relax at her touch. One night, Tai agreed reluctantly. "Tomorrow we decide what to do." Outside, the storm raged on, hiding the farm from watching eyes above. For now, the creature was safe, but somewhere above the clouds, others were waiting, planning to reclaim what they considered theirs. What Tai and Suk didn't know was that they had just welcomed into their barn something engineered for terror, something that would change their lives, and perhaps the fate of Earth, forever. The barn smelled of hay and old wood. David Kim stood near the alien creature, his heart racing. It looked nothing like he expected. No razor-sharp teeth, no glowing red eyes, just a small, hurt thing that seemed more scared than scary. Elena Park walked in, her boots making soft sounds on the wooden floor. She stopped dead in her tracks. Her hand flew to her mouth. "David," she whispered, "what is that?" David didn't move. The creature was about the size of a large dog, with soft gray skin that looked almost like wet clay. Its chest moved up and down slowly. Wounds covered its body. Some were healing, some still fresh and red. It had 4 limbs, but they didn't look quite human or animal. More like something in between. "I found it in the crash site," David explained. "It was inside that metal pod. I couldn't just leave it there." Elena's eyes narrowed. She was a nurse. She knew about treating wounds, about caring for things that were hurt. But this was different. This was an alien, a potential weapon. At least that's what the news had been saying all week. The government reports were clear. Strange pods had been falling from the sky. Each one contained a living weapon created by alien beings called the Orcs. These creatures were designed to infiltrate human settlements, to destroy, to kill. But this one looked anything but dangerous right now. "We should call someone," Elena said. Her voice was unsure. "The military, the police, someone who knows what to do." David shook his head. "Look at it, Elena. It's hurt. It's alone." The creature made a small sound. Not a growl. Not a threat. More like a whimper, like a hurt puppy might sound. Its large eyes, dark and wide, looked directly at David. There was something in that look. Something that wasn't just animal. Something that seemed to ask for help. Elena moved closer. Her nursing instincts were stronger than her fear. She pulled out a clean cloth from her medical kit and approached slowly. The creature didn't move, didn't attack. "We can't keep it," she said, but even as she spoke, she was cleaning the wounds, checking for infection, doing what she always did, helping something that was hurt. David smiled. He knew that look. When Elena started caring for something, there was no stopping her. Hours passed. The creature lay on a soft bed of hay. Elena had dressed its wounds, applied some antibiotics, wrapped it in a warm blanket. It seemed to understand they were helping. Sometimes it would look at them, not with anger, not with threat, but with something that looked like trust. "We'll call it Garu," David said suddenly. Elena looked up. "What kind of name is that?" "It means guard in Korean," David explained. "Seems fitting." The creature, Garu, made another soft sound, almost like an agreement. Outside, the Montana night grew dark. Inside the barn, something unexpected was happening. A weapon designed to destroy was being cared for, protected, loved. The first step of a very strange journey had begun. The morning sun had just risen when a strange sound filled the air above the forest near Taz farm. It was a low hum that made the birds stop singing. In a small clearing, the air seemed to bend and twist. Then, as if appearing from nowhere, a sleek silver ship settled on the ground. It was about the size of a bus, with no windows and smooth sides that reflected the trees around it. A door slid open with a soft hiss. 3 tall figures stepped out onto earth soil. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with lean bodies covered in tight-fitting gray suits. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were large and black, with no whites showing. Each carried a small device on their wrist that glowed with symbols. "This is where the pod landed," said the tallest one. His name was Ren, leader of this Narak hunting party. "The signal is weak, but still active." The second Narak, called Mole, pointed to a device in his hand. "The Morok specimen is close. This way." The 3 aliens moved through the forest with unnatural silence. Their steps left no broken twigs, and they passed between trees like shadows. They were hunters who had tracked prey across many worlds. At the edge of the forest, They paused. Before them lay Ta's farm with its fields of rice, the farmhouse, and the old red barn. The signal comes from there, Mull said, pointing to the barn. Careful, warned the third Nerak, named P.O. Scans show human presence. 2 of them. Ren's thin lips formed what might have been a smile. Humans are no threat. They have no weapons that can harm us. They crossed the field in the open, not caring if they were seen. They reached the barn and found the large wooden door locked from the inside. Open it, Ren ordered. P.O. placed a small disc on the door. It glowed blue, and the lock clicked open. The Nerak pushed the door wide and stepped inside. The barn was empty of what they sought. Fresh hay covered the floor. Farm tools hung on the walls. A tractor sat in one corner, but there was no sign of the Morok. It was here, Mull said, checking his device. The signal is strong. Ren knelt and touched the hay. Still warm. They moved it recently. He stood and looked around. Search for clues. Unknown to the aliens, Sook was watching from the forest edge. She had taken Dury for a morning walk when she saw the ship appear. Now, hidden behind a large oak tree, she watched the strange beings search her father's barn. The Nerak spoke to each other in their language, not knowing Sook could understand some of it. Dury had been teaching her in the past weeks. The Morok specimen has bonded with humans, Ren said in the Nerak tongue. This complicates extraction. The programming should prevent bonding, P.O. replied. It was designed for conquest, not friendship. This batch was flawed, Mull reminded them. That's why they were to be terminated. Sook's heart beat faster. Terminated. She looked down at Dury, who was pressed against her leg, trembling slightly. The creature's golden eyes were fixed on the barn, and its black scales seemed darker with fear. We place trackers and return to the ship, Ren decided. We will monitor and strike when the humans are separated from the specimen. The Nerak placed small devices around the barn and in the nearby field. Then they returned to the forest, moving back toward their ship. Sook waited until they were gone before running back to the farmhouse. Her father needed to know about the danger. That night, as rain tapped softly on the roof, Ta, Sook, and Dury sat at the kitchen table. Dury was now the size of a large dog, able to sit on a chair like a person. Its eyes moved between the 2 humans. Time for truth, Ta said firmly. What are you, and why are they hunting you? Dury's mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth, but the voice that came out was soft and sad. I am Morok, it said, created by the Nerak to be a weapon. I was born to kill. Sook reached out and took Dury's clawed hand. You're not a killer. You're our friend. The others like me were destroyed. Dury continued. We were wrong. We could think too much. Ask questions. The Nerak want weapons that obey, not think. Ta nodded slowly. And now they want you back. Or dead, Dury said simply. They will not stop hunting. Outside in the darkness, one of the tracking devices blinked steadily, sending its signal to the waiting ship. The sound of trucks coming up the dirt road woke Ta early the next morning. He looked out the window and saw 3 black vehicles stopping in front of his house. Men and women in dark blue uniforms got out. They carried small guns at their sides. Sook, wake up, Ta called. We have visitors. Sook came downstairs, with Dury following close behind. The creature was now as tall as Sook's waist, moving on 2 legs with a smooth, quick walk. A knock came at the door. Tay opened it to find a woman with short hair and a serious face. On her uniform was a patch that said Space Defense Force and the name Quan. Mr. Ta, she asked. I'm Commander Quan. We need to talk about what crashed in your field 3 months ago. Inside, Commander Quan and 2 of her soldiers sat at the kitchen table. They looked at Dury with surprise and some fear. How did you know about the crash? Tai asked. We watched the skies, Quan said. But the storm that night blocked our view. It took time to find the exact spot. She looked at Dury. And yesterday, we detected another ship landing nearby. Suk nodded. The Narak. They came looking for Dury. Quan raised her eyebrows. You've seen them. Yes, they put tracking devices around our farm. One of Quan's soldiers spoke into a radio. Soon, more SDF members were searching the farm and finding the small tracking devices the Narak had left. The Narak will come back with more force, Dury said. Everyone turned to look at the creature. They do not like to lose. Quan studied Dury carefully. Can you tell us about their weapons? Their ships. Their guns shoot energy, not bullets, Dury explained. Their ships have shields that stop most attacks. They wear armor that is very strong. Quan looked worried. We have some advanced weapons, but not enough to fight aliens with space travel technology. Then we don't fight their way, Ta said. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at his land. We fight our way. This is my farm. I know every tree, every ditch, every hill. What are you thinking, father? Suk asked. Tay turned back to them. The Narak rely on their technology. What happens when technology doesn't work? Dury's golden eyes brightened. The Narak have poor night vision. Their suits help them see in the dark, but strong lights can blind their systems for short times. And they don't like water, Suk added, remembering something Dury had told her. Their skin absorbs it too fast. Quan looked doubtful. You want to fight advanced aliens with what? Farm equipment? Yes, Ta said simply. And the land. And what you can bring. He looked at Dury, and our friends' knowledge of their weaknesses. For the next few hours, they made plans. Ta showed them the irrigation channels that could be flooded to create mud traps. Suk suggested using the farm's bright work lights to blind the Narak's night vision systems. Commander Quan added her team's few energy weapons to the plan. Dury drew rough maps of standard Narak attack formations. They always follow the same patterns, it explained. They are not creative fighters. They rely on being stronger, not smarter. By afternoon, the farm had changed. Traps were hidden in the tall grass. Farm equipment was placed to create barriers. The irrigation system was ready to flood key areas with water and mud. Will it be enough? Suk asked as they finished. Todd put his hand on her shoulder. Sometimes the simplest tools work best if used with good thinking. Commander Quan received a message on her radio. Her face became grim as she listened. The Narak ship is powering up, she told them. Our satellites can see it now. They're coming. Dury stood tall, its claws extending slightly. They think they hunt a scared animal and weak humans. They do not expect to fight. Ta nodded. Let's show them how humans protect their friends. As the sun began to set, they took their positions around the farm. The simple tools of human farming were now weapons against alien invaders. Soon, the humming sound of the Narak ship filled the air. The hunters were coming back for their prey. But this time, Earth was ready. The first light of dawn painted the sky pink when the Narak ship appeared above Ta's farm. It hovered silently, casting a long shadow over the fields. Tai watched from behind his tractor, which he had parked to block the main path to the house. Next to him, Commander Quan held one of the few energy weapons they had. They're scanning the area, she whispered. The ship lowered to the ground at the edge of the property. Its door slid open, and 5 Narak stepped out. They were all armed with sleek rifles, and their leader, Ren, wore a helmet with a glowing visor. Human, Ren called out, his voice strangely flat. We know you are hiding our property. Return the Morok specimen, and we will leave your world in peace. Ta stepped out from behind the tractor. The one you seek has a name. Dury is not property. Ren made a sound like a laugh. It was made in our labs. It belongs to us. Nothing that thinks for itself belongs to anyone, Tay replied. The Narak leader raised his hand, and his soldiers spread out in a perfect line. Then we will take it by force. Ta smiled slightly and stepped back behind the tractor. He pressed a button on a small radio in his hand. Across the farm, Sook opened the gate to the cow pen. She waved a red cloth and shouted. The cows, already nervous from the strange smells and sounds, ran out in a panic. They charged right toward the line of Nerek soldiers. The aliens were forced to scatter as 20 large, frightened cows ran past them. 2 Nerek fell into a hidden pit that Ta had dug the day before and covered with thin branches and leaves. Now, Commander Kwan shouted into her radio. All around the farm, bright lights turned on, aimed directly at the Nerek. Their vision systems, made to work well in darkness, were overloaded by the sudden light. The aliens raised their hands to their eyes, temporarily blinded. Sook ran to the irrigation controls and turned them all on at once. Water flooded the fields, quickly turning the ground to thick mud. The Nerek tried to advance, but found their feet sinking deep into the wet earth. From the barn roof, Dury watched the plan unfold. The creature's golden eyes narrowed as it spotted Ren, who had managed to stay on firm ground. Dury leaped down, landing with perfect balance despite its growing size. "You," Ren called when he saw Dury. "You are malfunctioning. Your programming is to obey, not to side with lesser beings." Dury stood tall. "I choose who I stand with." Ren raised his weapon. "You were designed for conquest. It is in your blood, in your mind. You cannot fight what you are." "I am what I choose to be," Dury replied. The Nerek fired his weapon. A beam of blue energy shot toward Dury, but the creature moved with surprising speed. It dodged the blast and ran straight at Ren. Before the alien could fire again, Dury tackled him to the ground. They rolled in the mud, Dury's claws against Ren's armor. The other Nerek tried to help their leader, but the SDF soldiers fired their weapons, forcing the aliens back. Ren kicked Dury off and stood up. "You fight well," he admitted, "but this is not over." He pressed a button on his wrist, and a signal went to his ship. A loud humming filled the air as the ship's weapons charged. But before it could fire, Commander Kwan's team launched their secret weapon, an experimental EMP device. It sent out a pulse that hit the ship, shutting down its systems for a short time. "Retreat," Ren called to his soldiers. The Nerek pulled back, helping their 2 comrades out of the pit. As they reached their ship, Ren turned back to look at Dury. "A Morok cannot escape its programming forever," he warned. "You were designed for conquest, not cooperation. Soon, your true nature will show." The ship's door closed, and it rose slowly into the air. Within seconds, it was gone from sight. Ta walked over to Dury and put his hand on the creature's shoulder. "Are you hurt?" Dury shook its head. "No, but Ren is right about one thing. This is not over." Sook joined them, mud covering her boots. "We won this time." "Yes," Dury said quietly. "But what happens when the programming he spoke of takes control? What happens when the weapon they made me to be awakens?" No one had an answer to that question as they watched the sky, where the Nerek ship had disappeared. 3 days passed since the battle with the Nerek. Peace returned to the farm, but it was an uneasy peace. Commander Kwan and most of her team had left to report to their leaders, leaving only 2 soldiers to watch for the Nerek's return. Sook noticed that Dury had become quiet and often stared at the sky. The creature had grown even more in the last few days. It now stood as tall as Ta, its black scales gleaming in the sunlight. Its claws were longer and its teeth sharper. "Are you worried they will come back?" Sook asked as they sat on the porch that evening. Dury turned its golden eyes to her. "I am worried about what is happening inside me." "What do you mean?" "I feel changes, not just in my body, but in my mind." Dury looked at its clawed hands. New thoughts, new feelings, angry ones. Ta came out with cups of tea. He had heard what Dury said, the programming the Nerek spoke of. Dury nodded. "I was made to be a weapon, to fight, to kill, to conquer." It looked at Sook with sad eyes. "I don't want to hurt you." "You won't," Sook said firmly. "You are our friend." That night, While the house was quiet, Dury woke with a start. Pain shot through its body. Its claws dug into the floor of the barn where it slept. Images filled its mind. Battles, blood, victory. The urge to hunt, to fight, to dominate grew stronger. Dury's eyes had changed. Instead of warm gold, they now glowed red in the darkness. It let out a low growl and moved toward the house, drawn by the sound of human heartbeats. At the door to Sook's room, Dury stopped. Its claws were raised, ready to strike. But then Sook turned in her sleep and said Dury's name softly, as if she was dreaming of her friend. Something inside Dury fought against the programming. Memories of Sook's kindness, of Ta's acceptance, pushed back against the violent thoughts. With a painful cry, Dury ran from the house and into the forest. Morning came, and Sook found Dury gone. Worried, she searched the farm, but found no sign of her friend. "Father, I'm going to look for Dury in the forest," she said, grabbing a backpack with water and food. Ta looked concerned. "Be careful, if what Dury feared is happening." "All the more reason to find him," Sook insisted. "Dury needs help, not fear." Deep in the forest, Sook followed broken branches and strange tracks. After an hour, she found a small cave. Outside it, the ground was torn up as if something had been fighting there. "Dury?" she called softly. "It's me, Sook." A low growl came from the cave. Red eyes glowed in the darkness. "Stay away." Dury's voice was deeper, rougher. "Not safe." Sook took a step closer. "I'm not afraid of you. You should be." Dury moved slightly into the light. Sook gasped. Dury had changed even more. It was larger, with spikes growing along its back. Its skin had darkened to a deep purple-black. "I'm changing," Dury said. "It hurts. The programming, it tells me to hunt, to kill." "Fight it," Sook urged. "Remember who you are." "I don't know who I am." Dury roared, the sound echoing through the trees. Birds flew away in fear. "I was made in a lab to be a monster." Sook didn't back away. Instead, she took another step forward. "No, you were raised in a barn, by people who care about you. That matters more than how you were made." Dury shook its head, as if trying to clear it. "The programming is too strong." "You're stronger," Sook insisted. She reached out her hand. "Remember when you were hurt, when we found you. You were small and scared, but you trusted us. Trust me now." For a long moment, Dury stared at her hand. The red glow in its eyes flickered, sometimes gold, sometimes red. Then, slowly, it reached out and touched her fingers with the tip of one claw. "Help me," Dury whispered. Sook moved closer and put her arms around Dury's neck. "We will. That's what family does." As they sat together in the forest, Sook felt Dury tremble. Whatever battle was happening inside her friend was far from over. But for now, the programming had lost. Back at the farm, Ta watched as a message came in for the SDS soldiers. He couldn't hear what was said, but he saw their faces grow pale. Something was wrong. Something worse than a single Nerak ship. The real battle, he feared, was just beginning. Commander Kwan's helicopter landed in the field next to Ta's farmhouse. She jumped out before the blades stopped spinning, her face tight with worry. She hurried to where Todd waited on the porch. "They're coming back," she said without greeting. 5 ships this time, not just one." Ta nodded calmly, though his eyes showed his fear. "When?" 2 days, maybe less." Kwan looked around. "Where is the creature? Where is Dury?" "In the barn with Sook. But there's something you should know." Ta led Kwan toward the barn. "Dury is changing. The Nerak programming is fighting to take control." Inside the barn, Sook sat next to Dury. The creature was even larger now, almost 8 feet tall when standing. Its scales had darkened to almost black, with purple streaks. But its eyes were still gold, not red, which Sook took as a good sign. Dury turned toward them as they entered. "Commander," it said in a voice deeper than before, You bring bad news. I can smell your fear. Quan didn't hide her surprise at Duri's changes. The Narek fleet will reach Earth soon. A full attack force. How many ships? Duri asked. 5 that we can detect. Duri stood to its full height. The roof of the barn was barely high enough now. They don't usually travel in such small numbers. There will be more, hiding behind your moon perhaps. Quan nodded. Our leaders are meeting now to discuss what to do. She hesitated. Some think we should give you to the Narek. A trade to save our planet. Suk jumped up. No, they would kill Duri. I understand their thinking, Duri said softly. One life for millions. That's not how we do things, Ta said firmly. Not on my farm, not on this planet. Quan looked at the old farmer with respect. I agree with you, but others see it differently. The Narek commander sent a message. He said Earth must surrender the Morok or face sterilization of this region. Sterilization? Suk asked. They will kill all life, Duri explained. Plants, animals, people. They will make the land dead for many years. Silence fell in the barn, as they all considered this terrible choice. We need another option, Ta finally said. Before anyone could answer, Duri suddenly fell to its knees. It let out a cry of pain that shook the barn. Its body twisted and shook as if fighting itself. Duri. Suk rushed to her friend's side. Stay back. Duri warned, its eyes flashing between gold and red. The final change is coming. I can't stop it. Suk ignored the warning and put her hand on Duri's head. Fight it. We're here with you. For several minutes, Duri's body changed before their eyes. Its muscles grew larger. The spikes on its back extended. Finally, it stood up straight, now so tall its head touched the barn roof. Its eyes settled back to gold, and it seemed calm again. I am still me, Duri said with wonder. The programming pushed hard, but I pushed back harder. Duri looked at its powerful body, then at the humans watching with concern and hope. I think I understand now, Duri said. The Narek didn't just give me weapons. They gave me gifts they never meant me to use for myself. It turned to Commander Quan. I have a third option, beyond surrender or war. We're listening, Quan said. The Narek built me with abilities they meant for conquest. One of those is a telepathic connection to others of my kind. Duri's eyes glowed brighter. I can reach out to the Morok homeworld, a planet the Narek conquered long ago. My people aren't all gone. Some still live as slaves. You can call for help, Tai asked. Yes, but it will take great strength, and the Narek will feel it. They will attack immediately when they sense what I'm doing. Suk took Duri's clawed hand in hers. Then we'll protect you while you do it. It's risky, Quan said. We don't know if help will come in time, or at all. Sometimes, Ta said, faith in friends is the best weapon we have. Duri looked at the humans who had shown it kindness when it was small and helpless, who had taught it that it was more than a weapon. I need to go somewhere high, Duri said. A hill or mountain, where the signal will be stronger. Commander Quan nodded. I know just the place, and I'll bring every soldier and weapon I can gather. As they prepared to leave, Duri looked back at the barn where it had first found shelter on Earth. They engineered me for terror, it said softly. But you raised me with love. That has made all the difference. Mount Sorek was the highest point in the area. Its rocky top gave a clear view of the valley below, including Ta's farm. Commander Quan's helicopters landed there just as the sun began to set. Soldiers quickly set up equipment and took positions all around the peak. Duri stood on the highest rock, looking at the stars that were just starting to appear. Suk and Tai stayed close by, watching their friend with concern. The Narek will know what I'm doing as soon as I start, Duri warned. They will come quickly. Commander Quan nodded. We'll be ready. She looked at her small force of 50 soldiers. It wasn't much against alien ships, but it was all Earth had in this area. Duri closed its golden eyes and spread its arms wide. The purple streaks on its black scales began to glow softly. The air around the creature seemed to bend and shift. "What's happening?" Tai asked quietly. "Duri is reaching out with its mind," Suk explained, sending a call to any Morok who might hear. Inside Duri's mind, something amazing was happening. It felt like doors opening one after another. First came connection to the minds of small animals nearby. Birds, rabbits, a fox watching from the woods. Then farther, touching the thoughts of humans in the nearby town. And then, pushing beyond Earth itself, out into the cold dark of space. Duri's body shook with effort. Sweat formed on its scales, turning to steam in the cool night air. Suddenly, Duri's eyes snapped open. "I found them," it said, voice filled with wonder. "The Morok. My people. So many, hidden away, but alive." "What are they saying?" Suk asked. "They are surprised, shocked. They thought all the defective ones like me were destroyed." Duri's face showed pain and joy mixed together. "They are sharing their memories with me. The truth about the Narak." As Duri spoke, its voice changed, as if others were speaking through it. The Narak were not always conquerors. Long ago, they were peaceful, but their world grew cold. They needed new homes. At first, they asked other worlds for help. When that failed, they took what they needed. They invaded other planets. Commander Quan asked. Yes, many worlds fell to them. My people, the Morok, were among the first. We were strong hunters, but we had simple weapons. The Narak saw our strength and decided to use it. Duri's voice grew sad. They changed us, generation after generation. Made us stronger, faster, more deadly. They turned us into living weapons. That's horrible, Suk said, taking Duri's hand. But something went wrong in their lives. Some of us began to think too much, to question orders. The Narak called it a defect. Duri looked down at Suk. They tried to fix it, but couldn't. So they ordered all the defective ones destroyed. Except you escaped, Ta said. Yes, and now? Duri's eyes widened. The others are coming. Those like me who escaped, and others who heard my call and broke free from Narak control. They are coming to help Earth. Commander Quan looked skeptical. How long will that take? The Narak will be here in hours. Before Duri could answer, alarms sounded from the equipment. A soldier ran up to Quan. Commander, 5 ships just appeared in orbit, and more are coming through some kind of portal behind the moon. The sky lit up with bright flashes as ships appeared above them. Some were the sleek silver of Narak design, but others were different, rougher, patchwork vessels that moved in strange patterns. Duri looked up with hope. My people came faster than I thought. Some were already nearby, hiding from the Narak. A voice boomed across the mountain, coming from the largest Narak ship. It was Ren, the commander they had faced before. Humans of Earth, you shelter a stolen weapon, a tool that belongs to the Narak Empire. Surrender it now, or we will begin cleansing this region. Duri stepped forward, its voice carrying with newfound power. I belong to no one, Ren, and I am not alone. The patchwork ships moved to position themselves between the Narak fleet and Earth. More appeared every minute, coming from all directions. The Morok stand with Earth, Duri announced, and we are no longer your weapons. On the mountain, humans and their one Morok friend watched as the sky filled with ships. The battle for Earth was about to begin, but now, at least, they had allies. It worked, Suk whispered, looking at Duri with pride. You found your people. No, Duri said, squeezing her hand gently. I found both my peoples. The one I was born from, and the one that taught me freedom. The sky above Earth turned into a battlefield. Narak ships fired bright blue beams at the smaller Morok vessels. The Morok ships moved quickly, dodging most attacks while returning fire with red energy blasts. From the mountaintop, Ta, Suk, and Commander Quan watched the battle with wide eyes. We need to help them, Suk said. Dury nodded. The Morok cannot win alone. The Nerek ships are too strong. It turned to Commander Quan. You must take me to their command ship. How? Quan asked. We can't fly into space. You don't need to, Dury explained. The Nerek will land their main ship to lead the ground attack. That's their way. Ren will want to capture me himself. Commander Quan spoke into her radio, giving orders to her team. Soldiers began moving equipment, preparing for a different kind of battle. There, Ta pointed to a large ship breaking away from the fight. It was heading down toward them, just as Dury had predicted. The Nerek command ship landed in a flat area near the base of the mountain. Its doors opened, and Nerek soldiers marched out in perfect lines. At their head was Ren, now wearing armor that made him look even taller and more dangerous. We need to get down there, Dury said. Commander Quan led them to a helicopter. This will take us close, but then we're on our own. As they flew toward the Nerek ship, Dury explained the plan. The ship will have other Morok inside, ones like me, kept in sleep tanks until needed. If we can free them, we can turn the tide. The helicopter landed behind a line of trees, hiding it from the Nerek. Dury, Suk, Tai, and Quan moved quietly through the forest toward the enemy ship. There are fewer guards than I expected, Quan whispered as they watched the ship from behind a fallen tree. They think they've already won, Dury said. They always do. They waited until most of the Nerek soldiers had moved away from the ship, heading toward the human positions on the mountain. Then they ran for the open door at the back of the ship. Inside, the air was cool and smelled strange, like metal and something sweet. The walls glowed with blue light. Dury led them through narrow hallways, seeming to know the way without being told. How do you know where to go? Tai asked. The Nerek build all their ships the same way, Dury explained. It's in my memory. They reached a large room filled with glass tanks. Each tank held a creature that looked like Dury, a Morok with black scales and closed eyes. There were at least 20 of them. My brothers and sisters, Dury said softly. The other defects they were going to destroy. How do we wake them? Suk asked. Before Dury could answer, a voice came from behind them. You don't. They turned to see Ren standing in the doorway, his weapon aimed at them. I knew you would come for the others, Ren said. Sentimentality. Another defect we couldn't remove. Commander Quan raised her gun, but Ren fired first. The blast hit the wall beside her, making her drop to the floor. I won't kill you yet, Ren told Dury. First, you will watch as we cleanse this primitive world. Then you will understand what your disobedience has cost. He looked at the humans with disgust. You wasted a perfect weapon with your softness. Dury stood tall, its golden eyes shining. They engineered me for terror, but humans raised me with choice. That makes me more than a weapon. It makes me free. As Dury spoke, something strange happened. The sleeping Morok in the tanks opened their eyes. They looked at Dury, then at each other. The glass of their tanks began to crack. Ren turned in alarm. Impossible. They are in deep sleep mode. They hear me, Dury said. They feel my thoughts. They want freedom too. The tanks shattered. The Morok stepped out, water dripping from their scales. They moved toward Ren, who backed away in fear. Outside, the battle had changed. The Morok ships were winning. The Nerek fleet began to retreat, pulling back toward the moon. Ren looked at his wrist device, seeing the reports coming in. This is not the end, he warned. The Nerek Empire spans hundreds of worlds. We will return with forces you cannot imagine. And we will be waiting, Dury replied. Not just here, but on every world where you've created slaves. Your weapons are turning against you. The freed Morok surrounded Ren. He looked at them, then dropped his weapon. Later, as the sun rose over Earth, the Nerek ships disappeared into the distance. The Morok vessels remained, now allies instead of enemies. On Ta's farm, a new building was rising next to the old barn. It would be a home for Duri and other Morok who chose to stay on Earth, a place where former weapons could learn to be people. What will you do now? Sook asked Duri as they watched the building take shape. Be a bridge, Duri said, between Earth and the stars, between what I was made to be and what I choose to be. Ta smiled at the creature that had once been small enough to fit in his arms. Not bad for something we found in a crashed pod and raised in a barn. Duri looked at the humans who had become its family. They engineered terror. You taught it humanity. That made all the difference.